coming one time and giving once-off donations, we need to engage them repeatedly in a long-term manner so that they can provide us a reliable source of funding. Specifically, what we propose is that when donors come to Givology to donate, you should have an option for them to have money deductions of small amounts from their bank accounts of say like $5 for example, which goes to the Givology wallet, which when upon coming to the site, they can decide how they want to disperse it among individuals and projects themselves. So with these three recommendations in mind, what's the action plan for Givology? There are two main areas which we feel we should focus on. First, in terms of manpower, and second, in terms of operations. So we need to expand internationally as well as domestically. As we saw from our first two recommendations, a lot of it is field-based approaches, and what we need is to expand chapters of Givologies in these host countries themselves, because they'll be more in contact with the NGOs and better able to liaise and coordinate with them as opposed to individuals based here at Penn who have to wait for their summer vacation to travel abroad. So we should tap on exchange students and international students who are both coming to Penn and going to these countries. And secondly, we need to tap on domestic students in expanding our network of Givology donors, and we especially identify high school students who are more likely to have the time available, the enthusiasm, and the willingness to be able to support Givology's work in donations. And secondly, as mentioned earlier, we need to expand the donor pool through institutionalizing a repeated giving mechanism on the website. And second and thirdly, to design easily replicable programs, but at the same time also incentivize dissemination of such programs. For example, as traditional multi-level marketing uses monetary incentives to do so, but what Givology can do is to offer subsidized Givology fellowships, which are already part of the current program, in using this as an incentive for people to learn more about Givology's work and travel to these countries themselves. So to sum up, what we see is a three-phase model which we are proposing, with the end in mind being to promote effective projects which can be replicated on a systemic level for educational change to happen on a larger scale than just what Givology itself can affect. And this is based predominantly on phase 2, which is our mix of partners, to be able to identify partners with effective projects. And so this brings us to our immediate phase right now, expanding the manpower, expanding the donor pool. So to conclude, Givology will be best positioned to effect educational change by strengthening the micro-philanthropic model itself and supporting its fieldwork. And this fieldwork should be centered mainly upon supporting replicable and scalable projects which can effect systemic change. And if Givology is able to successfully build up on these three models, we will be able to do a great deal in advocating the cause of promoting education on a large scale and solving problems. So thank you. This is the end of presentation.
Okay, so now there will be a question and answer period, 2 minutes.
Any of the judges first have questions?
I do. So when one reads the actual business model for Givology, there is a lot of emphasis on the personal contact between the donor and the child. And this contact could be lost entirely based on your recommendation. Do you feel that that means sacrificing something really important about Givology?
We feel that in approaching the problem, first we need to look at the larger issue, because like at the social impact conference, we spoke to one of the social entrepreneurs, Tori Rogan, and she talked a lot about how it inculcates a sense of dependency on people when they just give them donations. And personally, like for us, having gone to Peru over the winter to work with like NGO that works on putting street children in school, we realized that one of the biggest problems they faced was the fact that when these children grow up in this mentality, this mindset, and they have this personal contact, they tend to have a culture of reliance on donations, and they are not self-motivated to be able to seek employment because such donations are a more attractive form of funds for them. Yeah, so you see when we tackle this problem, we felt that although this might be one of the current core principles of Givology, if the fact that this undermines its ultimate vision, then this is something that needs to be more modified in life to support that. And we are not totally doing away with the personal contact. What we are saying is we're supporting projects, but at the same time remaining that personal contact because donors are able to see which are the children being affected by a project. For example, if you have a project to fund like textbooks for a particular school, you're able to see like stories about the children who are in that school to know that how they've benefited from that project. At the same time, when you write stories, write letters to them, you write it as a group. So and because we restrict it to children above 13 who are more developed so that their understanding of how things work, they are less likely to develop this culture of dependency upon the donor itself. So we're trying to build this more dependency, but at the same time retaining the elements of personal contact which we do not sacrifice totally.
So you've identified countries that you'd like to be operating in, and you've identified ways to find partners. Do you have any suggestions for specific partners to be involved in your research that you find might seem to be good for?
A particular NGO which actually like motivated a lot of our recommendations here was the one we worked with over the winter break, which is Bruce Peru in Peru. Yeah. So like basically, this was the concept they were founded upon, that what they want to do as an NGO is to be irrelevant by the time they achieve their vision. So they want to be able to promote the government to adopt some educational initiatives so that the government takes charge of systemic change in the country itself. So the NGO is the bridge between the current system and what they eventually want to adopt. And so there's been an existence for more than 15 years, but it's only recently, the last decade or so, that has been effective in generating awareness in the government. And the government has, in fact, in the past couple of years, adopted some of their projects as pilot runs in different schools in the different states. Yeah, so like in the long term, what we see is that there's a likelihood that the government will be able to support and replicate such projects on a national scale to really address the problem on a national level and not just on the level of how much an NGO itself can affect and impact.
I'm a little curious to go a little bit deeper into why you think that focusing on projects instead of individuals is better. I think that some of the problems that we have is that the bricks and mortar projects are really easy to evaluate. We made 3 schools and affected 50 children, but those numbers don't actually tell you more about how the children are learning, which is actually ideology, ultimate mission. So I'm just wondering if you considered what kind of projects may or may not be better suited for this. For instance, if you build 3 schools and there's no teachers of quality to teach at the schools, what does it matter? So did you give those kinds of things consideration?
So let me just rephrase your question. So you're asking about how do we select projects, or
how do you get beyond the numbers of this project, touched 50 lives, but what was the quality of that touch?
Okay, so how do we evaluate the quality of a project? So actually, well, this is currently, with what we have and with the resources that PIBV have currently, it is rather difficult to achieve because of the, communication is not really flowing very smoothly all the time. So that's why when we think about these issues, we work with the end in mind. That yeah, so educating the world, promoting effective projects, and educating donors. So how do you actually achieve having strong partnerships with these NGOs? So what we want is not just someone we met on the internet and you just talk to them for once and then you say, oh, it's something like that. What we really want is people on the ground to actually really understand what they're actually doing. So that will actually help us to evaluate the quality of the project better. Because if I just say, like, for example, you said, oh, I built 3 schools, but why are there no teachers? So if we have international partners, which is our scaling up phase, on the ground, to actually, students who are working there, they can visit the school they want, and to come and report to maybe the headquarters here at Penn, and oh, this project is good, and that project really isn't really very sustainable. So in that way, is one way to actually see the quality of the project. So really everything ties into really one large picture, so we can't just take one small bit and just, so that's why we suggest this model, because everything is dependent